Hello, everybody. Welcome to Pharmaceutical Soccer. I'm so excited for you to be here. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Pharmaceutical Soccer is back after another week, and guess what? You may know this already just because you are listening to this show, but Nashville SC is also back. It is time. I'm so happy for it. There's no need for hope. Let's just get back to what we should have been at the entire time. I'm here, of course, with Valer Shabilla. Unfortunately, Clay Trainum was not able to show himself today after after Saturday's match. There's no more optimism left from Clay, so he's not here. So I'm here with Valer, but that's okay. We're gonna carry you through the show. We're gonna have a good time. Valer, we're back, baby. Nashville SC is back.
Oh, I don't understand your intro. Like, is Nashville SC back to losing? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, back to normal.
Okay, back to normal, right. Because now that's the normal. Yeah, Nashville SC in beautiful mid-season form here late in the season. I mean, I guess mathematically they're not out of the playoffs, but it's not looking likely. I'll tell you that. I think the other disappointing part, which I think for people following this team, is that y the performance, right? I mean, you kind of there was so much hype around the performance for Nashville SC in that week where they got 2 wins and a draw, and then you kind of followed that through with pretty good 10 minutes or so in New England. And then it just goes downhill from there and it continues to go downhill until you lose the game. So yeah, it's a pretty tough loss to take, all things considered. But like you said, Steven, I think at the end of the day, that it's I mean, this is where this team is at.
Well,
You know what I mean?
yeah, and exactly. And I think it's weird because it doesn't only put the fans in a weird spot, but it also puts BJ Callahan in an extremely weird spot. Because again, if we were talking about this, stretch, and then you go into New England, say we're talking about this in June or July, it's a completely different story, like completely different conversation that we're having about Nashville Soccer Club right now. But unfortunately, that New England match was the closest thing you could possibly have to a must win for Nashville to make the playoffs. And it doesn't matter how the beginning of the season, like you're at a spot where you needed a pretty much a must win and you weren't able to go get it. And we talked about it last week as well. The performance of the team is going to matter a decent amount, not just the result itself, because you want to see the team improving and improving. And it just didn't seem like it. But before we're going to talk more about it. Belair, how was
Mhm.
your weekend? Did you have a good weekend?
Oh yeah. I had a pretty good weekend. It was pretty lazy, all things considered. Didn't do a whole lot. Played a whole lot of FIFA 25 or FCEA 20, whatever, that game. It came out Friday, unless you had the early access, which I didn't this year actually. And then kind of it's this game is like just sucks you in, man. It's especially for people like us who have been playing this game for pretty much my entire adult life. And actually non-adult life. I've been playing this game for a very long time. So when the new one came out, obviously I had to give it a lot more attention. So I spent a good amount of time just on the couch doing that, which was pretty fun. And then watch some soccer, watch Arsenal win. Really late late fashion, and hang out with my girlfriend a little bit. But pretty chill weekend, all things considered, and got to play a new video game. So always a good thing. What did you
Yeah,
do?
it's always fun for EA 25 just releases and stuff like that. Just because, I mean, no matter what, are we paying an absurd amount of money for the same game every single year? Yes, we are. Do I get more entertainment value out of that money that I did pay every single year? Absolutely. And that first week is always a good time. I want to relate it back to Nashville SC a little bit, and I want to quiz you while I'm here. Blair,
Ooh, okay.
on EA 25, who do you think is the fastest player that Nashville SC has?
Shaq Moore.
Wrong. They
He
actually
was like last year, I
I
think.
know they actually adjusted the ratings this year and
Oh,
it's
so is it
just
Schaffelberg?
It is Jacob
He
Schaffelberg.
was actually top 10 fastest in MLS. I just remember seeing that.
Yes.
The MLS account posted about it. Yeah, it's like 87 or something, right?
91 actually for
91.
Jacob
Oh, wow. Okay.
Schaffelberg. Yeah, it's
Wow.
really updated his pace for sure. Who is the lowest rated Nashville SC player?
Um, Forster Ajago.
Wrong. He is the third to lowest with a
Okay, I
51.
was close.
So we do have two lower
So
than
there's somebody lower than 51.
that is correct.
Two people presumably lower than
Two
51.
people lower than 51.
Let's go with Ben Martino.
52 for Ben Martino.
Okay, who?
And he is tied with another player at
Um,
52.
okay, so who is lower than 51?
You have Adam Sipich is 50.
Okay, fair enough.
And then you
Okay.
have one player who's rated 47. He's a central midfielder.
Oh, is it Isaiah Jones?
It is Isaiah Jones. That is
Oh,
correct.
okay.
Isaiah Jones at 47. The
Okay,
disrespect
come
to
on.
Isaiah
I
Jones.
mean,
Hey, he's got a 75 pace though.
hey, these are kids, literal children. So the
I
fact that they're even in the game, what a life achievement, honestly. I mean, that's what every person playing sports ever dreams of,
I,
is to
ha-
select yourself in a video game.
I have wished multiple times just being on the capo stand that EA would give me a call and be like, "Hi, can we put you on a capo stand in in the crowd?" I have absolutely wished that.
Maybe
Unfortunately,
maybe they'll add Geodis Park next game, with it being selected for Club World Cup, which is news we definitely have to mention. So Geodis Park, alongside a handful, more than a handful of other MLS stadiums and US stadiums, has been selected for the Club World Cup. So that means that Nashville will be hosting one of, or not one of, at least two of 32 top teams from around the world. So the Club World Cup has expanded to 32 teams, including teams from Europe and Africa and Asia and Australia and, well, not Australia, because Australia is in Asia when it comes to soccer. So there's that. North America, South America, of course. So there will be 32 teams. Nashville will probably get at least, I'm assuming more than one game, because it's probably going to be a group stage and maybe a knockout game as well. And yeah, it's a pretty big deal, honestly, all things considered. I mean, when you look at Geodis Park, it was built in 2022 for stuff like that, for Nashville to host stuff like that, because Nissan Stadium, as is right now, wouldn't qualify for something like that, especially with all the construction around it. So Geodis Park steps in and takes that spot, which is, all things considered, a pretty cool thing for the city and Nashville SC too, in relation.
well, I think it's also a big thing. There's a couple things that I think are a big thing as well. For one, there hasn't been this much hype around the Club World Cup going anywhere. It's always been a competition. It's always been a thing. But the fact that it's coming to the US, the hype for it is even larger just in the international scale. And I think some of that has to do with just the diversity in America. You have these teams that are in, Africa, Europe, Asia, that are all going to be coming to the US specifically, where the US has nationalities of all these people just in this country. So it's going to be super cool for a lot of these people to see their hometown teams or from their countries originally be in the US. Super cool thing there too. The stadiums and everything that they did pick specifically for the Club World Cup, it's about dang time they orchestrated like an international tournament where the groupings of like the actual places are close together. So, for example, like absolutely, like having Atlanta, Cincinnati, and Nashville all in like one grouping makes it so much easier for travel for some of these teams. Same thing with the Northeast. There's one, and the South. There's another with Florida. Like, thank you. I really hope they keep like the travel for those groupings very close and considerate for those teams, just because travel in the United States is extremely tough. So shout out to them as well for the places they did pick.
Yeah, so the reason for that, the reason they picked the eastern side for the Club World Cup is because the western side of things is there's going to be Gold Cup being played at the same time in the Western United States, while the Eastern United States is hosting the Club World Cup. So CONCACAF and FIFA had an agreement to not step on each other's toes and keep those competitions separate on each coast of, well, not even coast, just side, I guess. I will have to say that the Club World Cup with this expanded format has come under a lot of controversy. So it's not all it's not all rosy, I guess, when it comes to FIFA. A lot of teams, a lot of fans, a lot of people have been accusing them of chasing money and stuff along those lines because
What?
I know, right?
FIFA, they're a nonprofit. They're chasing
Right. And
money?
if you want to learn more about that, go watch the documentary on Netflix about FIFA. I can only tell you so much. But all things considered, I think for an American fan or somebody living in America at least, this is a pretty cool event because you get to see your teams, like Steven said, in a competitive format. And I think that's the one thing that's been missing from all these competitions is that Real Madrid, Barcelona, Arsenal, whatever, they all come to the United States to play friendlies, and those are as meaningful as whatever me and Steven kicking it at the park, really. I mean, like nobody cares. But then when you have an actual competition on the line, a FIFA competition, a competition where you're gonna have the best players playing, that's gonna change things, and that's coming up next summer in 2025. So keep an eye out. I really hope Geodis ends up getting some one of the bigger teams at least. But I think that it would be cool if they get like Raja was a Casablanca from Morocco or one of those big, or Boca Juniors, for example. These like big teams around the world that aren't necessarily big in terms of like world soccer, but big in terms of popularity and in terms of like what they can bring. Because I would love to see those fans travel to Nashville from Morocco or Argentina or any of those other parts of the world, of course. So like again, it's a really exciting thing, and I think even under all the controversy and everything, we I think we as Nashvillians, is that even a word? Nashvillians, Nashvillans, whatever. We as people living
How
in
long have you
Nashville,
lived here?
I don't know, 15, 16 years at this point. We as people who live in Nashville, I think need to be pretty appreciative of what Geodis Park has been able to bring to us, honestly,
I'm,
in terms of
I'm
soccer.
also kind of gaslighting you because I'm now trying to play it in my head and I have no clue which one. Is it
Nashvillians
Nashvilleans?
is a thing.
Is there
Nashvillians.
Nashvillians?
Yeah, that's a thing. Yeah. I'm committed. I'm committed. I'm on the record saying it's a thing, so it's a thing.
Okay, well, we do it's more fun to talk about other soccer that is happening in Nashville normally, but we do have to talk about Nashville soccer, and we'll talk about the match specifically coming up next, but we do want to give a very sad updated playoff picture where actually in terms of results, kind of results around the league, we did get it was a decent outcome for Nashville SC, but Nashville SC, this fate was in their hands, and unfortunately, that has put them in a very obscure position.
Yeah, I would say if Nashville had gotten the win here, they would be looking pretty good for that playoff spot. They are now 4 points. We live in reality, so I'll switch back to that. Nashville is 4 points behind the playoffs line, with Philadelphia and Toronto with 37 points each, and Nashville with 33. Now, Nashville does have a game in hand on Toronto, and they play DC, who are directly above them on Wednesday. So, again, these stranger things have happened in MLS, blah, 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 all that. I don't see Philadelphia dropping below that line, even though they have a pretty hard schedule. We went through the schedule last week, so I'm not going to do that. But just know that Nashville can still make it. A win against DC would at least put them above DC, which then leaves Montreal, Atlanta in front of them to the road into that into the playoffs line with 2 games left after DC. If they don't get a win against DC, I think that would be kind of done and dusted at that point. Mathematically, it wouldn't be, but the Valair scale says it will be. So that's what I can offer you at the moment.
Look, and we all follow the Valair scale for sure, which is much needed for all things. We should actually get that written down somewhere. So
I gotta figure out my criteria.
thank you, Valair, for that. Appreciate that. We are going to get into the next segment here. We'll talk about the match specifically. I do just want to give everybody just an update that we do have a Patreon. I would love you to go check that out. $5 a month. It does help us keep doing the show. We're going to keep doing the show during the off season, as well as during anything going on. God, I'm just sorry. I was just thinking about doing this show during the off season this year, and God, that's gonna be so difficult.
I mean, in a way, it's going to be more exciting, though. Think about it. There's going to be like signings. There's going to be potential signings. There's going to be maybe a rumor or two. I don't know. The off season is always more exciting because they're not actually playing. You can't lose if you don't play.
Anyways, so yes, follow us on Patreon for that. We'll be back here in a second just to talk about the match itself and previewing two-match week. We'll do that next right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer. And we are back right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer at Pharma Soccer on our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And as I mentioned in the first segment, we do have a Patreon. I would love you to be a Patreon member. We love doing it. We love having a show. We've been doing a few more things on Patreon as well. So please make sure to check that out. We also have a website, pharmasoccer.com. Yeah, check that out. Don't forget to leave your 5-star reviews on whatever podcasting platform you do use. We do read those out loud on the show. So whatever you put on that, we will read it out loud. I know that's asking a lot, but we will read it out loud. So if you want to make fun of Valère, Clay, me, it's probably going to be me that you're going to make fun of because that's normally how it goes. But yeah, check that out. Thank you so much for being a listener to the show. Okay, Nashville, unfortunately, go into New England and get the loss. 1-0 to the Rebs, unfortunately, in New England. I think Clay summed it up perfectly. Nashville can get 4 points against one of the top teams in the league, but then we cannot win a must-win game against the New England Revolution. And that's currently where we're at. So I think I guess we can just go into this match normally. I think talking about the starting lineup and squad selection is extremely interesting for this match. And I think it's very much a testament to what's different between BJ Callahan and Gary Smith, where I do believe the formation and everything worked that he did run, even though it was just kind of a, hey, I need to piece things together. But BJ kind of went back to his normal bread and butter formation against the Revs.
Yeah, so against Cincinnati, he had 3 at the back, which I thought it worked pretty good, really, all things considered. But yeah, you're right. He went back to the diamond shape or so. It's not perfect diamond, but it's diamond enough. I don't know what I'm saying these days. Anyway, you guys get it. They were playing with just in a different two center backs, full backs, and with Enonga sitting deep again, which I thought that was going to happen. I thought really BJ would not stick with 3 at the back, especially against the Revolution team that struggled defensively, that hasn't been really that good of a team. And I think when you want to kind of be on the front foot and take that first step, this formation allows you to do that a little bit more rather than just be reactionary with the 3 at the back. That's a little bit more reactionary and a little less controlling based on how Nashville plays it. All that said, I think the biggest thing wasn't actually the formation. I think the style of play for Nashville SC kind of sticks around regardless of the formation. I think the biggest thing was the team selection and the squad selection, really. And we should go ahead and mention that Jonathan Perez was not even in the squad. BJ Callahan elected to take a center back instead of him. That's BJ's words, not mine. It was just a coaching decision. There wasn't really anything else. I asked BJ about this because I was curious if he was injured or something. Now, Jonathan Perez has been, I thought, from my I guess, point of view of watching Nashville SC, I thought Jonathan Perez has been really, really good and effective. And I even thought he was going to start the match. When I did my preview piece, I predicted that he would start the match. But not even making the bench, I think that might have been. I just think BJ might have gotten that one wrong, and I don't. I mean, he knows more than me. Obviously, he sees these players in training every day, so I don't know if there was something that happened in training or something that just tipped him off. But I think outright not having one of the most effective players up top, even on the bench, was a little bit of a weird decision, honestly. And I just don't understand why that was made. I didn't think he needed that extra center back in on the bench.
No, I didn't either. It was extremely interesting to have that and be that elected. And like, say the worst were to happen where you're, one of your center backs or two of your center backs even went down with an injury. You've put, Dan Lovitz in that position before. You have ways to
Right.
adjust defensively to, counteract that. But where you've had trouble is the squad is in the midfield. So you kind of want all the help that you specifically can get. And we'll talk about the help that they did have in that midfield coming, up here in a little bit, because I think that's also a big, a big thing to talk about. But still, I again agreed. The way that he's been playing with this team specifically, I think he's been a light to this squad. We talk about him being purchased for this specific reason. And, he has some different ideas, than other players on this team do have when it comes to his play. And I'm kind of with you. I think it's a weird decision, for somebody that's been consistent, not even just, he's been a bench player that is finally coming into his own. He's been consistently playing the past few matches, and then to
Right.
just completely
Right.
leave him out of the squad is so weird.
Yeah, and I think this is the portion of BJ's the inclusion and exclusion of the squad has been a little puzzling for me. I mean, we saw Taylor Washington not even be included in the squad for 2 games in a row, then start the third one. I mean, these are the things that I'm a little curious about, and I think he has a process. I don't think he's just doing it sort of whatever he's feeling the day of. I feel like that process is maybe a little less straightforward than what we like to think. And I don't know if we'll ever figure out what that process is or why a player makes it or why a player doesn't make it. All things considered, though, even with the players that Nashville SC brought to New England, I thought they could have done better, right? So let's start off with the first half, the first 10 minutes, maybe even 15 minutes. Nashville SC just looked really good. I
Yeah.
thought a goal was coming. There was that Alex Muyl chance that kind of hit the post, hit the keeper, hit the post, whatever, and then the keeper collected it. There were a couple more chances from Sam Sturridge was looking really good and lively. So those first 15 minutes were really encouraging, and I thought a goal was coming for Nashville SC 100%. And then what followed was just a period of like, okay, let's sit back and let New England have the ball a little bit, which is normal, right? You're not going to be pressing all the time. You're not Red Bulls. But that period kind of was prolonged, I guess, by New England as they kept the ball more and they tried to kind of break Nashville's defense more and more. And then we really didn't see Nashville get back into that until like the second half, beginning of second half, that they got back to like controlling the ball a little bit and doing something with it.
Yeah, I was thinking about this as I was watching this match, and I don't I don't think I've ever watched Nashville play New England and see any sort of attractive style of football being played. Like it's always just the ugliest, grossest thing in the world. And that first 10 to 15 minutes, I was so excited. I'm just sitting there, just, oh, let's go. Okay, we're gonna get a goal in here. Sam Surge had a couple chances that, that one back heel from Alex Muyl, that Sam Surge probably should have put in a better position. That's not right at the keeper. But you're like, okay, these chances are going to continue. That definitely felt like a tease as we were going into the latter part of the first half and then going into the second half as well, where nothing was just able to come to fruition. And you could definitely, we talked about it when BJ Callahan was starting out with the mistakes that are happening, and the mistakes have been minimized. They have gotten to a point where they have been minimized, but you're not going to go through a match fully without it, which is what happened at the end for Nashville. There was just one mistake that was made where those finishing woes are going to affect you any way, shape, or form. And that's exactly what happened during this match.
Yeah, and it wasn't like really. After looking back at the match, rewatching portions of it too, it's not. It wasn't like first half was all good and second half was all bad. I think what happened really was that both halves started with the first 10, 15 minutes with Nashville SC really energized, really pushing. And then in the second half, that 15-minute period maybe wasn't as much. Maybe it was like 5 to 10 minutes, maybe even less. And then after that, again, Nashville SC just went into sort of defense mode and let New England have the ball and let's work on transitions. which is exactly what happened in the first half. However, in the second half, those transition moments didn't lead to the same chances as the first half. Now, there were a couple chances, like there was a long shot from Hani Mukhtar that was saved. There was a chance where two or three Nashville SC players broke into the goal, and then just weren't Surge wasn't able to get the pass across. But you're right, Steve. I mean, when you miss those chances, there was that one backheel one. I just looked at it this morning actually again, and I don't understand why Sam Surge doesn't just open up his body and take it to the right with his right.
Which he's done so many times.
It's his signature like finishing thing.
Right.
So I was just like shocked that he just like let it roll into his left and just shot it at the keeper. Now it's a good save. I'm not taking anything away from the save, but like you give Sam Surge that ball 9 times out of 10, he's gonna open up, throw it to his right, goal. You know what I mean? So I think it was a little frustrating to see something like that to fruition. And you're right, in the game that's that dull, in the game that's that not advanced, a boring game nonetheless. Those chances, those 2 or 3 chances, are going to be the deciding factor. And considering that New England won by 1 goal margin, yes, these margins are very fine. And yes, another day, maybe I'll say Jonathan Perez being included or not wouldn't have changed the outcome. This day, I'll say, no, that changed the outcome because it was 1-0. Maybe another day, I'll say Sam Surge missed a chance, Alex Will missed a chance. That's, those happen. On a day where you lost 1-0 to a header, but in the pretty late stages of the game, those margins matter so much. This is not a 2-2. This is not you winning 1-0. You lost those 3 points, and now you're effectively out of the playoffs, really, because of that.
Absolutely. And then, late in the second half, I thought I was falling asleep during the match because I didn't know what was happening or what was going on. And then the defense did the exact same thing. It is extremely unfortunate. I do feel I feel bad for Jack Mayer because I do feel like Jack Mayer has been playing better, and just one slip led to that goal kind of happening. It was extremely unfortunate, but the defense needed to be a little bit more on the ready when those balls were coming in.
And I think it's important to know Jack Mayer was covering his man. That wasn't Jack Mayer's man. Jack Mayer was with who he's supposed to cover. However, he sees the ball coming and he reacts to it, and that's where the slip happens. So a lot of folks are going to see that and say, well, this is on Jack Mayer. I see this and I say, there's probably somebody else who should have been covering by, because Walker's trying to make a run to by, and Jack Mayer's trying to make a run to by, and he gets a free header because no one else was with him. But if we just track it back right before that, there is, I forget who the player is to cross the ball from New England, but there's little to no pressure on them. Randall Leal's there, and Sean Davis is there on the left for some reason. And Lovitz is all the way in the box. It's kind of really tucked in, and Sean Davis is kind of covering on that left side. And Leal is in front of the first passer. First passer gives it to the guy who crosses the ball. There's no pressure on either of those players. He gets his cross easily. I mean, Davis jumps to try to kind of block it, but like it was like it didn't even affect the play at all.
Right.
And then the header happens, which again, I thought, leaving a player that open in your own box that late in the game is just a matter of not being able to be focused and not able to stay alert of stuff like that. Now, why was the Nashville defense not alert and focused? Has to do with what New England was doing and what Nashville wasn't doing, which was keep the ball, continue to go at the defenders, and continue to keep them under stress. When you keep defenders under stress, they make more mistakes. Look at Nashville anytime this season. That's what happens. They make more mistakes. It is a known thing. It's not a big analysis here. It's just what it is. If you continue to keep them under stress, they are more likely to make a mistake, which means more opening for your players to score. On the other end, Nashville SC just weren't able to they weren't able to string like 3 passes together at one point in this game. And that means that every time New England got the ball, they ran straight at the defense. That means defense had to play, no breather, nothing. That's where the mistakes happen, especially when you have new players coming into the game who haven't played into the game yet. They don't know where each person is running or who's running with who. And that's how you have, I think he's a right back, come up and take a header and score a goal on you.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we've talked about it a lot on the show too, where, some of these offensive players actually coming back and playing pressure defense and pressuring and how important that is. That was not happening in that second half either, where some of those lacks and, oh, hey, it's actually, Sam Surge or Hani Mukhtar that's kind of defending the cross. That wasn't necessarily happening when we were being pressured in that second half as well. So you could tell there was just a little like is it possibly exhaustion? Absolutely. I'm sure the team was absolutely exhausted. But in a must-win, like a must-win game to keep your playoff hopes alive in any way, shape, or form, you want to make sure that you are on, you are alert. And unfortunately, it just did not happen for this team.
And before we get into the next part of this, I mean, we talked about BJ Callahan not agreeing with his decision to keep Jonathan Perez out. We have to talk about the players and how their lack of urgency also affected this. BJ can only do so much when you put the players in this position. And I thought the players came out pretty flat, especially in that second half. And it really just I don't know where the intensity was. You're right, Steven. This is a do or die situation. This is your season on the line. And I didn't feel like Nashville was playing like that until that New England goal went in, which at the point was like what 86 minutes. Like
Yeah,
it's a little too late for you to be urgent now. You have to be urgent 20 minutes ago.
right. Absolutely. Which, like, yeah, if you did come out of there with a draw, it would have been a little bit different. I think in the terms of playoff hopes, you would have been 3 points off. But still, you were looking for that 3 points specifically to walk in and get out of there. There was some weird kind of referee confusion as well. Some very interesting moments with the ref. I don't know specifically how much you want to talk about that, Valaire, but it was a little bit weird.
Yeah, New England scored a second by Dave Romney, nonetheless. Nashville SC legend. Not really a legend. He played 2 years here. He was really good. But he was called off for a push at the back from Polster. I think that's who it was from New England. Thought that was incredibly weak. I don't know how. I mean, Nashville just got away with one really there. Um, then on the other end, Nashville goes and scores, called off for yet another interference from an offside position. This time for Jacob Schaffelberg. I thought it was really weak. I don't know.
I
I
thought
mean,
I
like,
thought it was too like when they were talking about it on the when they were talking about it on the broadcast, they're like, no, it's definitely the right call, all that type of stuff, which I think in technical terms, maybe it's the right call. But what was he really interfering with? He wasn't in the goalkeeper's way, he wasn't in the goalkeeper's position, nor was the ball in the goalkeeper's line of sight.
well, the keeper saved the ball that he interfered. So how much of an interference could he have been?
Right.
Is my question. But it's a little more obvious, I guess, than the one that was called on Nashville on Surge last week against Cincinnati. That one was even weirder decision. But yes, by the letter of the law, both of those, I guess, were disallowed because of the quote unquote push on the back and the interference. I don't know. At this point I am tired of refereeing decisions. I just want to say that I disagree with both. I know that if the rules call for these two goals to be disallowed, then we're doing something wrong with the rules and we should fix them. That's where I stand on that.
I agree with that. But one of the things that did happen in the second half, which I thought was fantastic, by the way, was Randall Leal actually playing competitive minutes, which one, that worried the absolute hell out of me. Randall Leal comes into New England's turf for his first match back. I was scared for his legs themselves, but I gotta be honest, I thought he actually looked pretty lively in the minutes that he did play.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the Randall Leal that we're used to, which is surprising. If he can get 20 minutes in each of the three games remaining, I think we would call this season a success for Randall Leal, all things considered. It's
It's just
sad that
so
it's come
weird
to.
that we would do that.
I know it's come to this point. I know it's come to how sad this is, but this is the reality, Nashville fans. And I'm sorry to be the one to break down reality for you, but this man has not played soccer a lot this year, and the fact that he even got on the pitch is a miracle. So, but yeah, I agree, Steve, and I think it was pretty. He was pretty impressive. He had that one shot before New England even scored. But I think there's going to be some adaptation period for PJ Callahan, his system. What I would say is that if I'm Randall Leal, I'm encouraged that BJ Callahan played me already.
That's exactly my thought too. Like
Yeah,
that is definitely something that maybe Randall Leal is making all the he's making all the right choices and the decisions, in the offseason and with his injury where he's really rehabbing himself, which has impressed BJ. So, I mean, literally, BJ left a player that kind of plays his position that's been performing extremely well
Yeah,
off the roster for Randall Leal.
yeah, that's fair. Yeah. And I mean, we'll see where it goes. But BJ was asked about it twice actually about Leal, and he said that Leal is one of those players who invites pressure to him and kind of tries to work his way out of it. And he said he liked that about him and that he hopes to get him more involved as the season progresses.
Yeah, and that's the match. I'm actually kind of shocked that we were able to cover this match in so much detail and in that way. But yeah, unfortunately, again, it has left Nashville in an extremely weird playoff spot with the next two, with a very busy week. One against DC United coming up on Wednesday at home, last home match at Geodis Park. Uh, Probably last home match at Geodis Park this season. And then, of course, against New York City on Sunday, which I do love a good Sunday MLS match, not gonna lie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird that it's happening with football season kind of going on. Real quick, any other MLS matches, score lines, things that stood out to you kind of over the day, over the week,
Uh,
over the weekend?
the East is weird. I don't know what's going on anymore. And the West is fun-ish sometimes. That's what stood out to me. But the West, it's important to note that the West has 7 spots already. The 7 spots have already been clinched for the playoffs. There's only 2 more left with 3 teams eliminated. So the West has 4 teams fighting for those 2 spots, and it's looking pretty rough for Austin and Dallas. So it looks like Minnesota and Portland are going to be there. Where if you come to the East, 6 spots have been clinched, but then there's like 18 teams fighting for those 2 spots left. So
And it was ridiculous. Like I was sitting there like just watching like the scores of the other matches go on as Nassau was playing. And it's like, well, DC is, winning. So probably nope, they ended up drawing Columbus. Chicago and Toronto ended up drawing.
yeah,
Montreal, of course, beat San Jose. So if we were still on San Jose watch, we're good. We're still good, by the way.
I don't
No,
even think the San Jose fans are in San Jose watch at this point.
yeah, I agree. I do think it was a not extremely exciting week when it came to MLS this weekend. I will say New York City in the New York Derby scoring 5 goals at Red Bull Arena was wild. Um, but yeah, that's what I got.
I mean, it's their home. Why would it be wild?
Oh, I love good New York team slander. It's a good time, even when
No,
the
let's jump into DC. I mean, DC is coming up on Wednesday. I think the most exciting thing about DC, not I think, the most exciting thing about DC is Christian Benteke, who is an absolute baller, currently leading the MLS goal score. What is the word? Golden Boot. Oh my God.
that's word.
Currently leading the MLS Golden Boot race. Looks like he's gonna get it. Scoring twice against Columbus. I mean, this guy is just a natural born goal scorer. If you saw him in the Premier League, he did it. And he's doing it in MLS again. Really, really good player, and it seems like a good person overall. So I am reluctant to talk about anything else with DC. They're very inconsistent. First year manager, first year general manager who came from Nashville SC, Ali Mackay. So still building this team. I don't think they are anything special at the moment. They have a pretty decent youth group. Cudi Pietro would be the guy that I would highlight for Nashville fans to kind of keep an eye on. He's pretty good, solid academy product for DC from that area. I don't know where exactly he's from that area, but a couple other good players here and there. But overall, a season that I think a lot of people expected from DC. Now they are still in the hunt for the playoffs, as is every other team in the East. It looks like, but they are ahead of Nashville. So again, a win here for either team, I think, will put them in a much better position. I think a draw doesn't help anybody, which makes these next 3 weeks pretty exciting in MLS terms because I don't think many of these teams are looking for a draw or need a draw. It's either win or lose, and that's what we're gonna see. I think on Wednesday, I think it's gonna be a more exciting match than usual.
And just in case anybody was wondering, I did ask if I could ride with DC, the team DC United to
Yeah.
Nashville for the match, and my request was unfortunately denied. They do
Why?
they do not let Division two coaches unfortunately on the flight. If Loudon was playing Nashville, it'd be a completely different story, but that is unfortunately not the case. Um, I should actually see how my team is actually doing this year in USL. I have no idea. I should probably be paying attention to that. But anyhow, and then New York, who has been playing, like we said, pretty good going into New York. I we'll do predictions, but I definitely think we can get a win against a very inconsistent DC. But New York might be a little tough. But they might not have anything to play for because they're kind of locked into their position.
Well, yeah, currently they're fighting for that fourth spot with Orlando, but by the time Nashville goes to New York, things might be a little different. I think the game is actually at Red Bull Arena. Yes. So even though it's NYCFC, the game is being played at Red Bull Arena because, NYCFC.
It's MLS, baby.
But NYCFC just beat the Red Bulls at Red Bull Arena 5-1. So maybe it's not all terrible. The other thing is that they drew Miami 1-1, which was a pretty good result. Before that, it had been pretty miserable for them, losing 5-1 to Philadelphia, drawing DC, losing to Columbus, drawing Chicago. I mean, yeah, things weren't necessarily going great for New York. I think they were winless in 10 or 8 before the New York Red Bulls game, which I think they'll be rejuvenated, and I think they're going to be really, really up for it. They do have Cincinnati in the midweek, so they're hosting both those games, the Cincinnati and the Nashville game at Red Bull Arena. So I don't know, maybe they'll prioritize the Cincinnati match or just go all out on the Nashville match. Either way, they have a midweek game as well, so nobody's going to have fresh legs. Everybody's going to be tired, and we'll see what happens.
And I don't necessarily want to go into Saturday just because I feel like that just might be a little bit, I don't know, circumstantial. But I do think the other big match to talk about when it comes to Nashville's playoff position would be Toronto against Red Bulls during the week. I think if there's a team that Nashville did have the ability to catch, it would be Toronto, just based on the matches that they do have, in comparison to also having a game in hand on them. I guess Montreal and Atlanta is probably one to pay attention to as well, as Montreal is tied at 37 points. Again, it's tough, but let's get into predict. We'll start off midweek. Let's actually, Valer, you just do both your predictions. Let's just do your plugs, predictions. Yeah. Let's do it.
At Valer Shabilla on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. Make sure to follow along as I do Nashville coverage and all other Nashville soccer coverage and all other soccer coverage when I have time. So make sure to follow along. And kicking the 615 foot golf tournament. Please sign up. We need more teams to come through. It's a lot of fun, and you would know a lot of stuff if you are good. And if you're not good, you get to support a local nonprofit and play foot golf, which is a really, really fun sport. All that considered, Nashville SC will draw DC United at home 2-2 with 2 goals from Sam Surridge, and then they will go to NYCFC and win because nothing makes sense. So I might as well predict that. So 2-2 draw with DC, and then a 1-0 win in New York with a goal from Hani Mukhtar from a penalty. That's my prediction.
At Clay Lost Soul on Twitter, of course, Nashville Soccer Archive. Make sure you do check that out. Also, again, sign up for that foot golf tournament for Kicking It 615. Always a lot of fun. I wish I could be back in Nashville for that. I love doing that foot golf tournament. So make sure you check that out. Look, my 4-4 draws have not worked out, nor have they happened, nor did they help. So I'm going to do this. It's going to be 2 straight 2-1 wins for Nashville SC. Once against DC, once against New York to give us hope that they are going to make the playoffs. And then we'll do next week after that happens. Hani Mukhtar and Sam Surridge for both goals for both games because Nashville. So thank you again so much for listening to the show. Truly appreciate it. Of course, we'll be back next week to cover this dual match week, give you more of an update on the playoff position, and I'm hoping we got Clay back next week as well. Shout out to MTSU's Wi-Fi. I don't know if that's possible to do, but I did it. So MTSU. Yay. Thank you guys so much again for listening to the show. Appreciate it. Have a good rest of your week.